deeply privileged to I'm deeply privileged to extend a warm welcome on behalf of Community Nutrition Forum's Meraki to Research-o-Pedia. Our distinguished speaker for today needs no introduction in the field of clinical nutrition, Professor Dr. Varsha. With her vast array of qualifications and international recognition, exemplifies the pinnacle of excellence in clinical nutrition, education, research, and ethical leadership. She is the founder chair of the Indian Institute of Nutritional Sciences, currently serving as the president of the international affiliate of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Professor Dr. Varsha also holds the prestigious position of professor and course coordinator for BSc Clinical Nutrition Programs at Madras Medical College, mandated by the Government of Tamil Nadu. Her contributions extend globally as the panel member for the World Health Organization Guidelines for Nutrition Practices in Southeast Asia, principal investigator for the Diabetes in India Nutrition Guidelines Study, and the resource person for API Textbook of Medicine. Her accolades include the Dimpheimer Guggenheim Fund Award, I'm sorry if the pronunciation is wrong, for the International Exchange in Nutrition, Dietetics and Management, USA, and the Srimati Marti Endowment Award, Tamil Nadu. Professor Dr. Varsha's academic journey includes a doctorate from Madras Medical College, master's degree from MS University of Baroda, and an undergraduate degree in nutrition medicine. She has honed her expertise through specialized certifications and international experiences, including clinical nutrition certifications from Leeds University, UK, and research collaborations in the USA and UK. I welcome you for today's event, ma'am.
Thank you.
Joining Professor Dr. Varsha are our esteemed panelists, each a luminary in their own right, contributing significantly to the advancement of community medicine and nutritional sciences. Dr. Asma Rahim, MBBS and DMD, serves as professor and head of the Department of Community Medicine at Government Medical College, Kozhikode. With her extensive clinical and academic background, Dr. Asma brings a wealth of experience in public health and community-based interventions. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing me.
Hello, ma'am.
Dr. Priya Chandan is professor and head of the Department of Community Medicine at Government Medical College, Manjeri, Kerala. Dr. Priya ma'am's expertise lies in epidemiology, preventive medicine, and health promotion, making her an invaluable asset to our family. Her qualifications include training in epidemiology and statistics at CMC Vellore, advanced course in medical education at MCI Nodal Center, and a postgraduate diploma in medical law and ethics from National Law School University, Bangalore. She has been involved in numerous community-based research projects for the ICMR PHFI with over 30 publications in public health and medical education in international and national index journals. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing me.
Dr. Shilpa Verma is the Chief Clinical Nutritionist at Bellevue Multispeciality Hospital, Mumbai. With her focus on bridging the gap between research and clinical practice, Dr. Shilpa brings unique insights into the challenges and opportunities in implementing evidence-based nutrition interventions. She is also a consulting clinical nutritionist at Sports to Teens Clinic and Mother Care Clinic, Mumbai. Additionally, she serves as a director partner of Healthy Way Nutrition and Supplements Company, national editorial board member of the Journal of Nutrition, Metabolism and Health Science. She is program officer of Nutrition and Diabetes India and a co-group member of IAP in India. Welcome you, ma'am.
Good morning to all.
Guiding our discussions with expertise and finesse is our distinguished moderator, Dr. Shri Priya Shadi. As a renowned counseling psychologist and nutritionist, Dr. Shri Priya ma'am's insights into the intricate interplay between mind and body are invaluable in our exploration of holistic well-being. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Together, as we embark on this journey of discovery, let us embrace the spirit of merit, pouring our hearts and souls into every endeavor, infusing passion into our pursuits, and igniting the flames of innovation and collaboration. I extend my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for gracing us with your presence today. May our discussions be enlightening and our collaboration fruitful and our shared journey towards excellence inspiring. Thank you, and let us commence on NutriLogue 2024 with deep enthusiasm and a commitment to excellence.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sodhi. So next, I'm going to call upon Ms. Fida Jabir to give a presidential address.
Good morning, all. Esteemed members of Meraki, distinguished guests, and fellow researchers and participants, as we gather here today to commemorate the anniversary of Meraki, our esteemed research club, it fills me with immense pride and gratitude to witness the vibrant community of scholars and intellectuals. Today, we embark on a journey of reflection, celebration, and exploration, guided by the theme NutriLogue, covering paths in nutrition research, grantsmanship, and ethical excellence. I'm happy to be a part of organizing committee to witness our esteemed panel of speakers, Dr. Asma Rahim, Dr. Priya Chandran, and Dr. Shilpa Verma, joined by our moderator of the day, Dr. Shri Priya Shaji. Community Nutrition Forum, a non-profit organization stemmed with the aim of addressing quacks and nutrition infodemic that had its tsunami spread among community during COVID. Its journey started with the brains of 5 founder members, Dr. Shri Priya Shaji, Mrs. Sharon Thomas, Mrs. Uma Kalyani, Mrs. Jyoti James, and Mrs. Sonia, our forerunners who paved path for dietitians to form a healthy community over the state of Kerala. CNF knitted its concept of research and development in May 2023 and named it Meraki. With mentorship of Dr. Shri Priya Shaji, Meraki is now 1-year-old team of Merakis. You all will get to know the year-long activities organized by Meraki during the sessions. In addition to our panel discussion, I'm delighted to announce the commencement of our poster competition showcasing innovative ideas of our members. As we celebrate this momentous occasion, let us renew our commitment to excellence, integrity, and compassion in all that we do. Together, let us continue to push the boundaries of knowledge, empower our communities, and strive for the healthier, more equitable world. Thank you, and may our discussions today be enlightened, engaging, and impactful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fida. So, as we know that it is the anniversary of Meraki, so we already know that we have successfully completed 1 year of sharing and learning together. So next I'm calling Ms. Ansa Saju for report presentation of Meraki.
My screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invite. And I would like to thank all the speakers who have joined us and agreed to, grace us and give us an amazing session today. So this is a year in a review of Meraki, the Research-o-Pedia. So CNF would like to present to you the first year anniversary report of its journal club, Meraki, the Research-o-Pedia. And we'll be highlighting the sessions that we've had throughout the year, where we've had sessions to empower individual knowledge, critical thinking skills, and research. So in collaboration with the first year anniversary, we are also conducting the NutriLogue session today. So the team of Meraki consists of 5 young and vibrant nutritionists and researchers. So it includes Ms. Ansa Saju, myself, a sports dietitian and a PhD scholar, Ms. Swati Lakshmi Venu, a clinical nutritionist and a PhD scholar, Ms. Fida Jabir, Chief Clinical Dietitian of ICRA Hospital, Ms. Fatima Sohela, a clinical nutritionist at EMS Perindalmana, Ms. Tanishma K, a consultant nutritionist and an entrepreneur who has her own setup called NutriLife Diet Counseling. And as always, we have been very graciously blessed and having a mentor, Ms. Priya Shaji, an independent researcher, nutritional neuroscience, and nutritional psychology, counseling psychologist, and nutritionist. And she's also the owner of Srisha's Counseling, a center for nutritional and psychological well-being in Kozhikode, Kerala. So we've throughout the 1 year, we've had various sessions where we've talked about clinical research, clinical nutrition research, scientific paper analysis, and research methodologies. So we've tried to make sure that the topics were pertinent to the realm of nutrition research methodologies and clinical practices. And we've always invited featuring distinguished guests who are stalwarts in their respective fields. So to give you a key insight of the session, so the inaugural session was held on May 20th, 2023, and the speaker was Dr. Research-o-Pedia. This talk was on latest advancements in clinical nutrition research and translating clinical practice into research publications. So she engaged in talking on the latest advancement, and she provided a comprehensive overview of how clinical practice can be effectively translated into impactful research publications. The second session was an in-house session by Ms. Swatilakshmi Venu and myself. It was on how not to read a scientific journal and was held on June 23rd. So we were able to give strategies for reading scientific papers methodologically, highlighting its importance and how to go through different sections of the paper. And Ms. Swatilakshmi Venu gave demystified a common terminology that's used in the research setup. The third session was on epidemiological studies on 21st of July by Dr. T.S. Anish. So he explained the significance of epidemiology in public health research, outlined the differences between descriptive and analytical and experimental studies. The webinar was particularly beneficial for participants interested in public health and epidemiology. The fourth session was Tickling Brains and Taming Tools by Ms. Sripriya Shaji. So the session was to highlight the psychological aspects of questionnaire design, ensuring participant engagement and accurate responses. Her innovative approach was effective in helping provide participants with creative strategies to enhance their research tools. The fifth session was on demystifying randomized control trials. It was held on September 29, 2023. So during the session was taken by Dr. Pramod Kosli. He shed light on the design and conduct of RCTs or randomized control trials and shared key elements like randomization, blinding, and data analysis, enabling participants to critically appraise the quality, validity of the research based on an RCT methodology. The sixth session was the quintessential of nutritional research in relation to diabetes in India. We had the esteemed speaker, Dr. V. Mohan, to grace us the occasion and share his knowledge on interplay between nutrition and diabetes management. He highlighted recent research findings, dietary recommendations, and public health strategies aimed at combating diabetes in India. The seventh session was a scientific chat by Dr. Sripriya Shaji on how to present research findings, engage in scientific discussions, and facilitate knowledge exchange within the journal club setting. The seventh session was a journal club presentation on geriatric nutrition seminar, and the speakers were and the presenters were Ms. Haley Thomas and Ms. Jyoti James. So Haley Thomas and Jyoti James shared their expertise on geriatric nutrition, focusing on dietary requirements, common nutritional deficiencies, and practical dietary interventions for older adults. So this gave valuable insights into improving the health and well-being of the elderly. Then we had a session, a journal club presentation on central obesity and intermittent fasting. The presenters were Ms. Amita Jacob and Ms. Anotha J. They discussed the role of intermittent fasting as a potential intervention for weight management and metabolic health. And the session was moderated by Dr. Bhagya D, facilitating an engaging discussion on the practical implications of intermittent fasting and its benefits and challenges. This gave us a better understanding of contemporary nutritional strategies for managing obesity. And now here we are at the first year of Meraki, and we have been resounding success marked by a series of intellectual stimulating webinars and on the knowledge base of each of its members. So each session was meticulously planned and executed, bringing together experts from various fields to share their insights into the nutrition and health. So as Meraki enters its second year, The Community Nutrition Forum looks forward to continue this journey of discovery and innovation with unwavering dedication from the team, support of its mentors and speakers. The Journal Club is poised to achieve even greater heights in the years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ansa, for a beautiful report presentation. So before getting late, we can continue for the actual section. So next we are heading to the session. I'm going to invite our moderator, Dr. Sripriya Shaji, to invite and welcome our speaker.
Very good evening, sorry, good morning, everyone. We are into NutriLogue 2024.
Over to you,
This is
ma'am.
our first year anniversary. Are you audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So as the saying goes, better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. It's a Japanese proverb. And yes, we really have a great teacher, Dr. Varsha, to give us a very interesting session on nutritional ethics. We have several times heard on ethics in research, but here today we are going to hear on nutritional ethics. So already Ms. Swati has introduced Dr. Varsha. However, I would love to say a few words about Dr. Varsha. As a Chennaiite, I was born and brought up in Chennai. When I entered into nutrition and dietetics in the year 2000, maybe ma'am might have started working when I was born. So in 1998, the first lecture, external lecture we got to see was Dr. Varsha's lecture. And still we cannot forget her beautiful swans, the idli in the sambar. So listening to ma'am itself will be a wonderful, like we are going to read a book in one go. So I welcome you for the wonderful session, ma'am. And I'm handing over to Dr. Varsha as the time is very short.
Will I be allowed to share my screen, please? Yeah. It does not allow me to share my screen. No. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I would like to say congratulations to the young group. I'm reminded of what Father of Nation Mahatma Gandhi used to say. He used to love all the young people in the group during the independence when he called it the monkey force. And I definitely feel that that can be extended. After all, I'm a Gujarati, come from the land of Mahatma Gandhi, and also I've got ears like him. So I'm qualified to say that you are my monkey force in nutrition. And Shaji, it is great that you're spearheading something on this. I use this opportunity, besides congratulating, in the sense that, you know, all these little that must be brought to an international platform. You people should get recognition. You should not be like frogs in the well. Okay, doing a great job amidst ourselves. You are young. I definitely feel that, you know, my time is up. I can only guide you onto the thing on what I've achieved, but I really want to fast forward you people at the earliest possible on the platform. And as having said that, I am with Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics USA as of the international affiliate. I feel that all of you should get on to it such that, you know, you can showcase what is required in the rest of the world. We should lead the rest of the world. We are the ancient civilization. Our community is the oldest, and we have got Ayurveda, we have got ancient wisdom in our eating. And I think, you know, the Tower of Babel must have been, because every 500 meters that we travel, we have a different language and a different cuisine. And if we have survived for so long, including the COVID-19, I think we need better appreciation of what we are doing. Anyway, I come now to taking you to the subject of ethics in nutrition as such. The learning objectives for you today is that you should provide it is to provide the clinical nutritionist dietitians tools for understanding their role in dealing with ethical issues of nutrition at 3 levels. Code of ethics for the profession of dietetics, ethical issues of nutrition and hydration. That is, all of us who are into the clinical scenario of feeding the inpatients, looking at total artificial nutrition support. And then, of course, the ethical issues in research. And the second point of learning is how to create a proactive, integrated, systematic process to achieve sustainable clinical practice changes in ethical issues based on evidence, individual values, and professional. Now, I want to highlight at this point of time one important factor. All of you would have come across this, attack on our profession by a politician. I don't know how many of you know, recollect it, but to be told that, that a diet prescription was given by a dietitian was the biggest insult. And that comes from a person who is a minister for education. That tells you how illiterate she is. To not even know that we are qualified people, we are the qualified people to give the nutrition and dietetic principle for the patient. But none of us, that is where I say we need to coalesce, we need to work together as a community, not a single group of nutritionist, dietitian as a body. As an individual, yes, I saw somebody file a writ. As an individual, it is no use. Varsha saying something is of no use. It is lost. But as a group saying it is got value. And we need to learn that this is where ethics is a struggle between the right and wrong, moral and immoral, just and unjust. A circumstance in which a moral conflict arises in the workplace, thus it is a situation in which moral standard is being challenged. Ethical issues in the workplace occur when a moral dilemma emerges and must be resolved within a corporation. All my years of existence, I have been struggling with ethics when it comes to the fact that dietitians have always worked in kitchen and they have been talking only of exogenous source of nutrition care. I do not know how many of you have heard of these words, but in clinical nutrition, there is something called clinical nutritional injury. There is endogenous nutrition effect and exogenous and food. All this while our home science colleges have taught us only exogenous nutrition and not endogenous nutrition. So we are now having all home science colleges converting the course into clinical nutrition without really understanding the importance of clinical nutrition and how it is endogenous and how we need to learn a different terminology altogether. So, ethics is something where we ourselves need to learn on what are the standards of conduct and moral judgment, and the study of general nature of morals, of the specific moral choices to be made by a person, and the rules or standards governing the conduct of a person or members of a profession. So just because we all got our degrees, we just in nutrition and dietetics does not make us an expert. There has to be a lot more that goes into it. And just imagine the types of codes comes under ethics for nutrition. They can be aspirational, they can be educational, they can be regulatory. Shaji didn't have much time to keep you engaged today. Maybe I will tell her that we need to take it forward with a longer time to understand what exactly is an aspirational, educational, or a regulatory code. And it consists of 5 categories: fundamental principles, responsibilities to the public, responsibilities to clients, responsibilities to the profession, colleagues, and other professionals. And besides this, there are 19 principles. Who has done this hard work? It has been done by Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, USA. And they have got members that are 1 lakh members. So you can imagine we don't need to reinvent, but we need to do cultural adaptation to India. You just cannot. My fight with Academy has always been, just because you say it, I don't have to accept it. I have to see how it can be accommodated. And that is what brought me into creating Diabetes in India Nutrition Guideline Study. And it was It was a big disappointment for me to know that our dietitians could not rise up to international standards as far as that research is concerned. I can refer you to read that article because you will realize where we were found wanting on the standards of research as declared by the international bodies. Okay. So when we look at ethical issues for human nutrition, we need to collaborate with others and reduce health disparities and protect human rights, promote fairness and objectivity with fair and equitable treatment, and contribute to activities that promote respect, integrity, and competence of the profession. We need to look into race, ethnicity, creed, religion, disability, gender, age, sexual orientation, or national origin. You know that we have people coming from, especially in the south, we have people coming in from the islands surrounding us. So national origin is of great importance. I get patients from Nepal, I get patients from the island Sri Lanka and Nicobar and islands and things like that, Maldives. So you need to understand, and when I work with organ transplant, I got patients from Sudan and places like that in Africa. So just imagine the scope of what is being thrown at us. So what is our primary goal? Protection of the individuals, groups, organizations, communities, or populations with whom practitioner works and interacts. So this is where we need to focus on so many aspects of nutritional ethics as such. And it is not just that, we need recognition, we give out bites to the newspapers, which are very contradictory. And I've been fighting with the media also on this issue, because you'll have a headline which says, eat eggs every morning, okay? And then what happens to the vegetarians? And then it will say, you have now got lots of little kiosks that are selling donuts, but we will say, don't eat vade. What is the difference between the look of donuts versus vade? Same. But, it is more indigenous for us. And why should we decry vade and eat donuts? So we need to look at what has been our traditional food aspects and make it contemporary and take the contemporary to our tradition. That is very important. And so the bioethical principles, there are 4 main standards: autonomy, integrity in personal and organizational behavior and practice, beneficence, that is, we must be very professional in our way of handling, non-maleficence, competence and professional development in practice, and justice, social responsibility for local, regional, national, global nutrition as such. What are the functions of the Code of Ethics? It is intended to protect the profession and the credential, influence public and private policy, improve professional practice, meet the guidelines of the accrediting agency for the Commission of Dietetic Registration. Now, let me bring to your attention, the Government of India has brought up what is known as a document paper for allied health science, and dietetics has been included in it. But how many of you are aware that clinical nutrition that we talk so highly about amidst ourselves, is not listed, and which means that all home science colleges that have converted their home science courses and christened it or rechristened it as clinical nutrition, those degrees are invalid. Are you people aware of it? And the sad thing is, none of us are fighting for our cause. And if clinical nutrition is not included in the document by the Government of India, none of us are valid in our practice. The misconception about Code of Ethics is it is not intended to identify and reprimand unqualified dietitians. Let's not waste time on people who are unqualified. But we must be strong in what we are talking. And you would believe it, God gave us a wonderful opportunity to showcase our expertise when pandemic came in, COVID-19 came in. All of us know it is because of compromise on immunity. And immunity is related to nutrition and dietetics. And how many of us really got center stage to talk about it? I was called in, I fought with the government in Tamil Nadu, telling them, please let me access patients who are admitted, at least let me do the nutritional assessment to know where there was compromise and give you a suggestion. But no, they would not give recognition to a lone dietitian. That is where the problem was. So one swallow does not make a summer. We need to collectively make our presence felt, not by just conducting, our own conferences and patting each other's back, but we really need to be somebody who comes collectively where people understand that practice belongs to the nutritionist, and that is the ethical way of doing it. We be not a punitive force to take action on somebody. That is not the function of code of ethics. Who can access the ethics committee? Any member. Do we have an ethics committee, so to say? Yes. Now, very many institutions have constituted their own ethics committee as far as research is concerned. But we do not have a collective ethics committee for our profession. That is the need of the hour. Because any member or non-member can make a complaint to the ethics committee. They are not necessarily anonymous, but they're confidential. And the ethics committee then reviews the complaint, discusses the response in an executive session. And what happens next? They may dismiss the case, or they may request for further information to be gathered. And the person may be contacted with specific actions for educational intervention. You wouldn't believe types of complaints that can come: personal disputes, inappropriate advice, copyright, poor business, lack of scientific support, legal violation, and misuse of RD per se. And believe me, I would put misuse of RD in the first place as a major complaint that we need to address as such. Please remember, as clinical nutritionist dietitians, you're knowledgeable in all aspects of nutrition, not just community. I call it trinity of challenges that faces every human being: community nutrition, commercial nutrition, clinical nutrition. And it is only us who can link all the three to take care of people right from conception, birth, through their living age until death. And so we are the people who are knowledgeable in all aspects of nutrition. We must work collaboratively as a part of interprofessional healthcare team to make recommendations on oral feeding, including and providing or withdrawing or withholding artificial nutrition and hydration. And we have to serve on active members of bioethics committees as such. So we need to understand that when it comes to ethical issues for artificial nutrition, the patient's right in self-determination, and there are new terminologies that are coming in, like living wills and advanced directives in terms of quality of life, and what is the role of physician order for life-sustaining therapies? How do we interact between the physician controlling? They are the captain of the ship when it comes to the patients in the hospital, but we need to be talking same wavelength. So as nutrition practitioners, we need to utilize the decision-making based on ethical positions of professional organizations. And honest to God, we have no professional organization who is protecting our profession at this point of time. We also need to look at ethical deliberation elements when we want to talk of collaboration. And for that, we are not only looking at healthcare team, clinical nutrition and moral reasoning, but even healthcare institution policy, etc. So how many of us? Yes?
Ma'am, we started by 11:52 and we have very few more minutes, ma'am.
Okay, so I will then want to move it forward. I will leave this presentation with Sri Priya and make you realize the depth of the requirements. So if we look at the collaborative ethical deliberation elements, there are suggested ways of how you would do that sort of deliberation. Okay, there are 11 commandments, and there are also a delineation of your roles and responsibilities of ND professionals. How would you conduct yourselves? There are also aspects of withdrawal of ANH. It is not something you can stop at your whim and fancy or because the patient can't afford. You need to understand there is how you will take the decision and your goals, okay? And for that, you have two societies, the American Society for Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition, ASPEN, as well as Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And as latest as 2018, they have brought out standards for nutrition support. They have given us goals for advanced dementia, disorders of consciousness, terminally in individuals, and decision-making in the pandemic. Even this has come up. And I do have a case study on how we should have handled when it came to COVID-19. Many of us didn't get an opportunity to take care of patients, document, and present our research on how we need to. In fact, there was one doctor who even went on to national air to say, when we need dietitians, they are hiding. They are not there because they are worried about their lives, which was a very horrendous statement to be made for us. None of us, I challenged and I said, I'm willing to enter into the field. I'm not worried about dying. But believe me, we never got an opportunity, but I have included on how in the pandemic we should have handled when it comes to clinical nutrition. We also need to understand the cultural values and religious diversity in the clinical ethics as such. And there is a great area of work that we need to do, and that is the quality of life goal screening. Just as we do screening for nutrition risk, we need to look at QOL. And now you can understand that you can improve. And since you're talking of having doctors of community medicine, this is very, very important slide where we need to look at improving health literacy by using a teach back method. And I have delineated what exactly is the teach back method. And on basis of which acute care and the format of how the policy statement should be made and how we should be looking at it in terms of long-term care, home care, etc., keeping in mind QOL. Having said that, since there is very little, I'll come to the conclusion on ethical issues of nutrition and hydration. RDs must work collaboratively as part of interprofessional healthcare team to make recommendations on oral feeding, including providing, withdrawing, withholding artificial nutrition, and should serve as active members of bioethics committee. I have already given you an idea on the QOL and the nutrition cap process. That is a big thing that we all need to learn on. Now, coming to the ethics in research, the most important human endeavor is the striving for morality in our actions. Our inner balance and even our very existence depend on it. Only morality in our actions can give beauty and dignity to life. This is what Albert Einstein has said. And so, you know, it is not in our lifetime itself when a person has said what it is. You have to look at research in terms of ethics per se, as well as research. And I've given definition for both and incorporated two to say research ethics refer to some of the journals that researchers follow to protect the rights in developing research strategies and building a trusted relationship between study participants and investigators. There are 5 fundamental ethical principles that are there already delineated for research and ethics, and also in terms of ethical issues that should look in research designs, research methods, and in sampling strategies, okay, as well as data analysis. Everything is spelled out. Only thing what we need to do is not only read upon these issues, but also look at how we will. And for that, you need to do a self-assessment. And I have just given you an outline of questions that you should discuss for each case study. Is the situation described an ethical issue? Is the situation described a business dispute? What category and principles of code of ethics does it relate to, and how and why? What are the key issues, and how might you handle as a colleague when it comes to these sort of studies? Having said that, I would conclude by saying research ethics are important moral signposts for researchers to avoid deception when conducting and reporting research outcomes. Also protects against any possible harm to the study participants. Further helps validate any research. Following ethical standards and research also ensures credibility and public trust. Ethical issues and research should be prioritized in the study design phase. Therefore, tackling ethical issues and challenges aligns with research strategy, etc. So I have given you in nutshell 3 different aspects as far as ethics is concerned. It's a vast subject by ourselves. I am happy that I got an opportunity to give you a bird's eye view, but I implead you people to understand that there is a great depth in understanding. And as far as we are concerned, we have a long way to go in inviting practice as far as India is concerned. We are still, little islands all over. India is a big country and we are all islands doing what we think is right. What we say, what we think is right. We practice what we think is right, but not necessarily it is meeting their ethical requirements. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for a beautiful session and enlightening session. So next we have a panel discussion. And for that, I'm calling our moderator, Dr. Sripriya Shaji, for welcome and introduce our panelists. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Varsha ma'am. It's as always a very much interesting and very much enlightening session for us. And now moving on to the next session is a panel discussion. So, Sir Isaac Newton has said that if I have foreseen further, it is by standing on the shoulder of the giants. Like how he mentioned the giants, we have a wonderful giants for the day. We have Dr. Asma Rahim, we have Dr. Priya Chandran, excuse me, and Dr. Shilpa Verma. All three of them are like Dr. Asma Rahim. Already Swati has introduced all of them, but just a small word. Dr. Asma Rahim is a professor and HOD of Community Medicine in Government Medical College, Kozhikode, and Dr. Priya Chandran is a professor and HOD of Community Medicine in Government Medical College, Manjeri. And we also have Dr. Shilpa Verma. She is a nutritionist and researcher, and she is also a very known chief dietitian of renowned hospital. So we have all the three people here for the session today. Excuse me. Ma'am, are you all ready? Shall we move on to the session?
Yes, definitely.
Welcome, ma'am. So, like moving on to the session, like I have the first question to Dr. Shilpa Verma, ma'am. Ma'am, what are the latest developments in nutritional research and how are they affecting the dietary guidelines and public health policies?
Okay, I will answer within the stipulated 2 minutes. But before I start, I would really like to thank you, Sri Priyaji, the entire team of Community Nutrition for this fantastic opportunity to interact today. Also, it is very overwhelming to meet you, Dr. Varsha ma'am. Deep respect, privileged to be a part of this eminent panel alongside Dr. Asma and Dr. Priya Chandran. Taking forward this question from what Dr. Varsha ma'am just shared, right? We are in the primitive stages of our understanding of nutrition and more so maybe from where we stand in the Indian subcontinent. Every day that you learn something new, which I learned today from Dr. Varsha ma'am, the ethics, it is a new research for me. So, but when we talk of the latest developments, whether I may not have the real-time information of what is happening worldwide, but a lot of work is getting done in the omics sector. So nutrigenomics, personalized nutrition, as well as even the microbiome research. So I would say when we talk of microbiome, and when we talk of public health policies, somewhere the focus has to be on promotion of the traditional dietary practices, because that will be beneficial to the gut of the Indian subcontinent. As Varsha ma'am said, that every 100 meter we have a different geographical layout as well as a different cuisine, right? That is where the traditional practices play an important role. And I would also like to add that somewhere we have to look at the overall well-being, where need for sanitation and hygiene also needs to be addressed, because we may talk microbiome, we talk diet, we talk metabolic health, but unless these two are also addressed and at different strata of our lives, the research, I think, remains incomplete. I am a very basic researcher. I do not have the expertise of all the people around, but I feel it has to be holistic. Even plant-based diet, even sustainable produce, locally sourced, seasonal produce. Okay, that gives rise to sustainable nutrition. Somewhere this can influence stressors in terms of the family, because it's easy on the pocket, it is more accessible to the child. Maybe we are talking epigenetic programming. Okay, so we talk big things, but somewhere the whole story is within smaller researchers. Digital health technologies, nutrition education, promoting of health behaviors, even facilitating remote counseling, or as we are connecting today. So the digital health technologies are important. If we talk from a policy perspective, because we talk of malnutrition, and we know in India we have under 5 as well as the adult malnutrition, as well as sarcopenia. Maybe food fortification and nutrient enrichment is the way to go, by which the government has already done and taking initiatives for essential nutrients such as iron or iodine or vitamin A or folic acid, where staples are fortified like your salt and wheat flour and edible oils. But it has to be more from, so that's where maybe the nutrigenomics or the omnics play an important role. It is not just fortification, but how your body is then adapting to these changes, right? So right from maybe women's health to cognition to sleep to stress to affordable nutrition, to sodium sugar reductions, to recovery nutrition, to personalized nutrition, to even protein production in the future. We have largest population probably in the world. We cannot compare to China. They have more land area than us, and we have to feed this population. We talk of reduction of malnutrition, but the production has to be there. So these are complex set of activities. If we look at the sustainable developmental goals, the zero hunger, right? All this comes under the zero hunger policy. So I think the top priority of nutrition could be better understanding of the variability in the metabolic responses. Also, this would support us to understand the dietary reference intakes. We already have the newer dietary reference intakes just published this year by the government. Maybe there are queries around the same, but it gives a start point to how one needs to practice. Even the disease profile, so food and ingredient synthesis, right? Because I also look at nutraceuticals. I feel this integration is important, right? We can have plant-based fat substitutes or non-absorbable chemically synthesized sucrose polyester fat substitutes, higher oleic acid, lower your trans fats kind of oils. So food product development can also be something that the government can support us with. But again, this integration is a challenge, right? It's easier for us to say all these researchers need to be put into the policies, and it needs to reach the stakeholder. But if you look at the challenges, it is, say, for very simply put, for farmer, it is sustained income. They are not, of course, they are concerned with health, but for them, it is the sustenance of their income and livelihood, right? And for public health policy makers, it is the food systems that need to be integrated into, say, more of a public domain. So nevertheless, one needs to understand that we need to be there as a bridge to integrate these things, right? And before I end, I would just like to, because I read this just yesterday, and I don't know, I just thought of you, Shripriya. If you could go and read back, and maybe it would help you. This is a newest research, say on the 16th of Feb, that is published in the Journal of Neuroscience, because you look into, you like to know about nutrition and neuroscience. It is about the weaker connection between two brain regions and higher BMI. So this is something that has come up from the Northwestern scientists, this report, where they said that the olfactory tubercle and the olfactory cortical region, which is your reward, okay, a crosslink between this is something that a person wants to keep eating. So to put it simply, that when you're hungry, maybe the smell is important of food. And as you are satiated, maybe the food is not so very important, right? But if the smell still is appealing because of this imaging, neurological imaging issues, you will still keep on wanting to eat. So somewhere it is not just that, it's only the insulin story, which we now address it very, very vehemently, or it is that the person is just, does not know when to stop. There are lot of researchers that are coming around. You can look up into the Journal of Neuroscience in the May 16th thing. The author, I think, is Thorsten Khan.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. If possible, some of the even our participants has requested in chat box to post the link.
I will right away post the link. I hope it was a good read, and that's why I thought, and because you are into that space, I just thought to mention it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, my next question is to Dr. Priya, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am, and happy you joined us today. And the question is about this, because basically as Vasha ma'am and Shilpa ma'am were talking, nutrition science is a very huge thing. Like we start from the basic farming to cooking to where the digestion and everything, therapeutic dietetics involved. The problem here is the grants. So how much fund involved is very huge. And the problem is there are so much of funds available, but we are not able to connect with it properly. The tie between the clinical nutritionist and the research nutritionist is also lagging. And we want to fill that gap, and we want to get more insights from you in this regard. So the question is, what key things like make a grant proposal strong in nutritional research, and how can a researchers match their goals, and what funders really want? Because most of the times we see like at least 2 out of 10 is getting accepted. So why is this remaining 8 is not accepted? What is the expectation from the funders?
Yes, thank you, Shripriya, for including me in this panel. I am happy to be a panelist along with such eminent panelists. So yes, to answer your question, what I feel is, nutrition is still a very little researched area. Mainly, I think because research in nutrition is associated with so many biases. It's difficult to address all these biases, but it can be done. Only thing is the researchers should know where the bias exists and how to address these bias in their research design. And to answer your question proper, if you want to have a strong grant proposal, what the funders usually look for is academic novelty. I know writing a grant proposal can be very challenging, even for a person who has already done so and has received a prior grant. But it can be done if you are trained properly and you have attended workshops regarding how to write a grant proposal and are continuously doing so. So one thing which they definitely look for is academic novelty. So for understanding academic novelty, you have to have a very wide literature review. So only if you do a literature review, you will understand what are the gaps in our current knowledge regarding nutrition, which areas are the one which are least researched, and select those areas. Because rather than adding on another research to what is already existing. What the grant funding agencies would usually want is to have something new. Another thing which they would definitely want is scientific rigor. That is your research design, your study design, and your sampling, sample size, sampling procedure, etc. should be really good. And it should address all the biases and make sure that your research stands in the long run. So scientific rigor is another thing which has to be definitely what they will look for. And I think most of the research, most of the grants which may not be accepted might be due to this not maintaining the scientific rigor. And another thing is the relevance and impact. What is the relevance of your research question to the general public? Because always the funders would like to be able to, what do you say, apply this on a larger scale. So that is where their interest is. So what is the impact of this particular research on the larger public? How will it impact the society as a whole? Or how will it impact the current practices, clinical practices or therapeutic practices? So that is what they will look for. So always research which addresses these issues will get a more, what do you say, brownie points when compared to others which do not. And another thing is your research team. Always this research is a collaborative effort. It is not to a one-man's effort. So you should have a team which is experienced in conducting research, and not only experienced, but their credentials should also be good. So always in a research team, at least the principal investigator should have credentials which are impressive. Not saying that other people will not get the research grant, but that is something which they will definitely look for. And always extra point is given to collaborative research, multidisciplinary research, when you're involving other disciplines also, maybe some other field also, like maybe health in combination with the technology, using artificial intelligence, etc. So a multidisciplinary or collaboration with other institute, a multicentric study is always given importance or given credence over a single center study. If you already have a small pilot study which has already been done, or a preliminary research which has already been done by you, that is an added benefit, because that shows that the research which you are planning is feasible and it can be done by you. So always that will also play a large role. And of course, your budget. So you should have an appropriate budget. You should give them an appropriate budget, not overestimate it or even underestimate it. Because we have had situations where we have given grants, and always, they will also be thinking in terms of saving money. So once you give a budget, they will try to trim the budget so that they don't have to spend much money while addressing your research question. So always your research should give the appropriate budget. And we have had instances also where they have said that this budget is not enough, please increase your budget. So that is also there. And of course, you should give a realistic timeline for your research. So within what period will you be able to complete it? Always give in a little extra time, so that some challenges can occur throughout your research study when you're implementing it. So to consider those challenges also, those impediments also, and then give a realistic timeline. So that these are the things in brief. Because having a grant proposal, how to give a grant proposal and how to make sure that your grant proposal gets accepted is a workshop in itself. So I've just mentioned briefly the things which you have to keep in mind. You might have to go back and look again regarding these areas.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, then moving on to this, next is I have a question with Dr. Asma, ma'am. Ma'am, welcome to the session. And the question for your is, how can the new researcher or a budding researcher best prepare to contribute meaningfully in the field while upholding the ethical standards and also securing the necessary fundings?
Thank you, at the outset, thank you, Sri Priya and Meraki, for inviting me to this session. Just graced by eminent personalities, and I was listening in awe to Professor Varsha ma'am's presentation. To address your question was about how new researchers in this field can meaningfully contribute and what preparations they have to do. I think the first thing they need to have, all of us should need to have, is a strong educational foundation in nutrition science. And here we are an interdisciplinary group, and all of us have some foundation and knowledge on nutrition science, and that's really important to embark on nutritional research projects. The second one, Priyaman was mentioning an important point. When you select topics, that should be an academically novel topic. And for that, how do you prepare? You need to consciously undergo a lot of continuous professional development, including networking and collaboration, listening to experts. That's going to widen your horizons and widen your perspectives so that we can select novel topics and what is the in thing now in nutritional research. The third thing is you should have a strong foundation on ethics in research. Be prepared with that. And the fourth important thing would be you should have a basic knowledge on funding opportunities, which all agencies are there from the government side, from private foundations, and even industry sponsors to support nutrition research. And I'm not going to talk much about ethics, but all these should also involve ethical principles of when you're researching. Your research should be scientifically, it should have rigor, it should have transparency, and including from the time you design a study, in data collection, analysis, and even reporting, they should be transparent and rigorous. The next thing we should try to do is, being a new researcher, try to start publishing in peer-reviewed, reputable journals. And it's not going to be easy, but I suggest that you have a good mentor and a good team. Madam was suggesting that a research team is important. So start with a mentor, and also from interdisciplinary perspectives. If there is intersectoral collaboration, your papers go, your funding, there's a big chance that your research may get accepted. And finally, engaging with community stakeholders and even academic stakeholders, because you have to translate your research into actionable policies. And that requires some sort of, you need to make it visible, and that requires a lot of effort. So I think these are my comments on for the new researchers.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next question is again for Dr. Shilpa Verma. How is the new field of nutritional genomics influencing the personalized nutrition? Because now it is more on personalized nutrition, and what are its practical kind of uses now?
Okay, so first, nutrigenomics, what is it? It is a subset of broader field of genomics. Okay, so that's where your nutritional genomics come, and it is the genetic basis of your response to a diet, right? Wherein food is not just for fueling, but it has a bigger role in taking care of therapeutics and the disease story, right? Now, if we look at how this 20th century has evolved, the massive transformation that is there, right from, say, for example, the societies have changed themselves from rural farm-dominated lifestyles to urban technology-driven lifestyles, right? It is corporate. It is not now only small farms. Now, why am I saying this? If we have a broader understanding of nutrigenomics, we will understand about nutrients, about the phytochemicals that are present in these food sources. So approximately there are 16 genomes that will reflect themselves differently to the environmental stimuli, right? Now, if we look at the practical use, right from personalized diets, to weight management, how these genes influence your metabolism, to disease prevention, to even athletic performance, right? Why not everybody is an athlete, right? There are genetic variations there, to even food productions, to the functional foods, to nutraceuticals, to the gut microbiome that we spoke about. If we talk of examples of few of these nutrients, say, for example, the omega-3 fatty acids, right? Individuals with certain genetic variations, they will have a reduced ability to convert this plant-based omegas into more beneficial EPA and the DHA. So the ALA is into EPA and the DHA, right? If we know this genetic variation, maybe supplementation with fish oil could be an option, right? So, but if somebody can convert well the ALA to EPA, DHA, they don't need it, right? Similar goes for the vitamin D. Genetic variations can affect individuals' ability to produce vitamin D from sunlight. Not everybody can have the equivalent conversions. Folate, caffeine sensitivity, even carbohydrate sensitivity. Everybody can't sustain a keto diet. Everybody can't sustain a low carbohydrate diet. At the same time, there are certain insulin resilience and resistance to in certain individuals that are higher, to how well the body uses antioxidants. Say during COVID, everybody took turmeric, right? But did everybody benefit from turmeric? Who needed more? What was the nutraceutical levels that were required by people? Even gluten sensitivity to even sodium sensitivity. We prescribe DASH diets. We promote DASH diets. We say use low salt. But again, the genetic factors influence how the body responds to sodium intake. And that could affect the blood pressure regulation, right? So we are, I think, in a beautiful realm of understanding of nutrition to its core components. We know the macro and the micronutrients. Now we are understanding bioavailability. We are understanding a lot more things. But at the same time, globally, there is a transition on how agriculture is done. It's now corporate, right? Think about it. And then if we connect this, maybe we are trying to have better agricultural produce that would help us.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, just moving on to this next question I have for Dr. Priya, ma'am. Like balancing the innovation in the fund requirements, like how can the researcher mix the ideas with the funders expert?
Yes.
Like expectation.
Yeah. Yes, basically the funding organizations, they look for certain things. And for a researcher to know what the funding agency is looking for, to align their research with that of the funding agency, what we have to look for is what are the vision and mission of this funding agency. So if you look at major funding agency, go to their website, you will see what is their mission, what are their objectives, or what are the research areas which they usually prefer. So only if you do a thorough review of the preferred funding agencies' objectives and missions, will you be able to align your research to their objectives. So usually the funding agency will choose a research which is more aligned to their objectives, isn't it? So you have to think in terms of their interests also. So usually they go in for these innovative research, and for innovative research, of course, if you want to come up with an innovative idea, you have to go against what is the current norm, challenge the status quo. So that is the first thing which you have to do. Some things are being practiced. Is it really practical, or is it really scientific? Or is there a better option? So that is challenge the status quo. Another area, another thing, how you can come up with some innovative ideas is to network with people. So network with people of a different field maybe. So talk to them, gain their ideas, always keep your eyes and ears open. So that will promote, or that will give you some ideas regarding what is the current gap in the current literature. So collaboration with experts, preferably from other fields, will give you newer ideas. But what is most important is to know the mission and the objectives of the funding agencies. So you have funding agencies which are specifically addressing nutritional research, like the World Food Program, the UNDP, etc. Of course, the ICMR has got a separate head for nutritional research also. So you have to really do a review regarding which are the agencies which are available and what are their objectives and mission. So only then you can align your research to their mission.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Asma, ma'am, like how do we see this, like you see this integration of nutritional research, like grantmanship and ethical issues or ethical excellence driving the future of this field?
Integration of all these three, I think, is definitely going to change the research milieu of our country, because that is the need of this hour. And it will help. It will help us in meaningful publications coming out of this, from the nutritional researchers, as well as we need evidence-based publication, and that's what we are lacking. So one important thing is we need to have opportunities for the researchers, and creating opportunities is just, it doesn't come our way, unless you work in an institution or in a forum like this, which has got a research culture, visibility, and scholarly contributions, and people start reckoning your findings, and with this, I think, comes all the funding opportunities and grants. You slowly make your presence felt in the field of nutritional research, and even the international agencies start to recognize your contributions. They start citing your work, and slowly the visibility improves. And I think I totally agree with Dr. Shilpa when she says that our recommendation should be evidence-based and culturally sensitive. And that's really, really important. You talk about big things like chia seeds, walnuts, and things, and our people are into uh, pulses, dal, rice, and how can we do research, more research in that area? And that's important. So there is a huge importance for addressing equity and social justice in our research, which is culturally sensitive, appropriate to our context. So I think that is when changes are going to happen. And thank you. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Shilpa ma'am, again it is to you. Like, how can you explain this? How interdisciplinary collaboration is helping us to understand more on the microbiome impact on nutrition and in the prevention of the chronic diseases? May I request other participants, please mute yourself.
When we talk of microbiome, first we are talking of a diverse community of, say, microorganisms, right? Specifically, more so in the gastrointestinal tract. When we talk microbiome, we are talking that GI, not the other areas. So it could include bacteria, viruses, fungi, and all these play an important role in the physiological process, right from digestion, metabolism, immune function, to the synthesis of vitamins and minerals. So if we talk of interdisciplinary, for me, it is interdisciplinary understanding between microbiology and molecular biology, between the nutritional sciences, between immunology, right? Between metabolomics, probably epidemiology, clinical research, because that is how we examine the microbiome composition and link it to various diseases and bring in the dietary interventions. So as ma'am said, that we need to be more culturally sensitive, because that is how our guts are. We may not need a chia seed, but maybe just adding what is more culturally as a fiber source or a fat source for us locally could be the way out. Even bioinformatics and computational biology. So all this multi-omics data, right, right from say genomics to your metagenomics. They identify disease risk, and probably that's a way to help us prevent the diseases. So I think the collaboration of this understanding is important when we want to develop evidence-based strategies for microbiome health. Could be the way forward to then prevent chronic diseases.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Priya, ma'am, like most commonly nutritional researchers are long term. For example, there is now it's widely spoken about diabetes reversal or redemption. Like this cannot be like said in 3 months time frame. We need at least minimum of 1 year to 2 year to say what is actually happening in the same set of patients. Even if we are going to do with the microbiomes and any area of nutritional research, just a 24 hours dietary recall is not going to help us. So like what is the biggest task is how can we like ensure that what are the strategies we can ensure this funding goes consistently for the researcher, because it should not end in between or interrupted.
Yes, actually the funding, usually when a grant agency funds your research, it is for a time period. And the time period will depend on the way you have put in the time period. So if you have put your time of research as 3 months or 1 year, you will get the funding for 3 months or 1 year. But even beyond that 1 year, if you want to get research funding or continued funding, there are certain things which you can do. One is like do a research which is a continuation of the previous research. So already funding agency is sensitized to what you have done. And maybe later on they want to know more about what will happen later on in this research. So they will automatically be more favorable to have funding for that. So for example, right now, we don't really have vitamin D levels in the Indian population. Most of the data which we have, normative data which we have is Western data. So that is why you get so much of vitamin D deficiency in our population. So maybe we can, if you give a research proposal for getting the normative data in our population, it might get accepted because it is something novel, it is something new which you're doing. And then after that is over, you can have a follow-up study regarding supplementation of vitamin D, an intervention study, a supplementation of vitamin D, which you can give as another research proposal. So naturally, that being another innovative idea, not much done previously in a population-based study, maybe that will be of interest to the funding agency. But most important in this thing again is, like we said earlier, your goals should match the goals of the funding agency. And you should have a credible profile. The researcher should have a credible profile. So one thing like Asma Madam talked about is visibility. So you should, once your research is over, publication of your research is very essential so that people see your research and people gain from your research. So publication of your research, presentation in conferences, engaging with the media, engaging with the public, and joining professional associations and communities like this, all that is important to increase your visibility. And side by side, you have to develop your skills in writing and in managing research grants, because management of research grant is a very time-consuming task. And you can seek advice, you can seek support from your seniors, from mentors, those have already done collaborative research, those have already received grants prior. So always seek advice from your seniors and mentors. So that is what we can do for long-term funding.
As well, ma'am, what are the emerging trends like we see in the intersection of these three, like especially nutritional research, grants, and convergence in this field? And how important is this in especially child and adolescent or women-oriented researchers?
You're talking about emerging trends, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think nutritional research in the next decade is going to be really exciting. You know, when you look into the literature, there are lots of emerging areas coming up. And as Dr. Shilpa has talked, one is personalized nutrition. It's exciting to see that you're going to have your gut health assessed, your genetics being, mapped, and your metabolic health being considered, and then you have something on a platter. This is the ideal diet for you, and that's exciting to see. And the second area that's going to come up in a large way is nutrigenomics, as Dr. Shilpa has again explained to us. But I'm interested in this nutrigenomics. A lot of articles are coming out. When you search PubMed, you can see this is an area of research which is fastly developing. Like, you can have articles like what is the impact of curcumin from turmeric, and genistein from green tea, and resveratrol from red grapes, and how does vitamin D3 help you, especially women, in bone health and mood swings. And those are the kind of exciting arenas that are happening around the world. Lots of literature, lot of work is being done. And another area is epigenetic research, where we in community health, we always talk about euthanics, or environmental modification of your genetic traits. So the similar thing is there in nutrition research too, where environment influences can actually determine whether and how your genes are going to get expressed. So if you consider proactive lifestyles, you can put your genes on and off and change, how the course of life takes. And it's important in non-communicable diseases and lifestyle modification. So these are all really exciting to note, because when I searched for epigenetic research in PubMed, it yielded about 14,07,449 articles. In this field alone. And Dr. Shilpa was again talking about microbiome research. It's happening in a big way, getting and gut and your moods, and gut and mental health, and your gut health, and obesity, autoimmune diseases, cancer. So, and search PubMed, you can see umpteen number of articles, 11,000 odd articles on microbiome research. And it's coming up in a big, big way. And as a doctor, as a public health specialist, I'm really interested on how foods can influence mental health. When we do surveys on depression and anxiety, and it's interesting to say, you take one banana, and the banana is such an available food, and that has got tryptophan, which will increase serotonin, locally available foods, which can be a mood elevator, or simple things which are available around us. Fish like salmon, mackerel, those who are fish eaters, you include a lot of omega-3 fatty acids into your platter, and it might improve. These are all mood boosters. And again, like, considering something like a piece of dark chocolate for those sugar lovers. But then again, it has to consider different sections of the society and how affordable these foodstuffs are. But these are all going in a big way. And another area, an emerging area, is in environmental sustainability and ethical food production practices. Let's see, in India, if you consider, last year was a millet year. So even they're considering drought resistant food, and and that is culturally sensitive food, and encouraging crops, anticipating water shortage in the coming years, anticipating the climatic changes. And another area would be carbon footprint, cultivating foods with low carbon footprint. And it's understood that predominantly a plant-based diet is going to reduce the carbon footprint by reducing methane and greenhouse gas emissions. So these are the areas where a lot of research, and we can witness a lot of evidence-based recommendations coming in the coming decade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Somehow, to the entire participants, I want to say somehow we are mismanaging with the time, and we have little more questions from the participants. But in between, Professor Dr. Varsha has to leave for the session today. And we are wholeheartedly thankful to you, ma'am. I'm really, really blessed, because as a student, I have seen her, and I have co-worked with her 10 years ago, and now again we are working together and associating in several forums. And it is really like once I planned this NutriLogue, the first person I contacted was Dr. Vasha. And I was like, just praying inside me, ma'am should work. Except she immediately said, very nice, we should do. And none of my panelists said no. Like with the immediate call, everyone said, yes, we are going to do that. And just like in a fraction of a second, I set all the panelists and everything is done. So when the ideas are good, the universe will accept and bless us. That's way we got all of you together in this platform. And at this moment, we say bye to our dear Vasha ma'am. Thank you for joining us today, ma'am.
Nice meeting you,
Yeah,
Vasha.
thank you. It
Thank
was a
you.
great pleasure. Nice meeting you, Shilpa. Even if it is by remote that we do, but then world is becoming smaller. Yes. We'll keep in touch as
Yeah.
such. And yes, it was nice interacting, but I really hope, Sri Priya, you will spearhead and work of getting more people on understanding ethics, because that's the need of the hour. Neither the community will respect us, nor will our colleagues internationally respect us if we are not going to conduct ourselves ethically. And that is definitely the need of the hour. So you have brought up a very interesting topic for discussion, but it should not begin and end with discussion. It should be implemented. Okay. So all the best to everybody. Thank you and bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next questions, very few more questions. Maybe I will take another 10 to 15 minutes. Shilpa ma'am, I want to ask you about this data science. AI is improving a lot, and everywhere it is becoming AI. And we are even seeing some of the researchers with writing their research with the ChatGPT and all those things. So using data science and machine learning in nutritional research and making dietary interventions more precise, and will it be like a benefit to make it more precise and effective? How do you see this change?
So, though I'm not an expert in AI, I still use my pen and paper. Yeah, but yes, definitely with times we need to learn, we need to move. Where I feel AI could be a way forward is in personalized dietary recommendation, is where one can analyze a large data set, right? Now we are talking nutrigenomics, we have taken the genetic profile. How do we analyze that? That's where the AI is going to tell us the clinical and the dietary, admixtures to put forth for the dietary response to the patient. Also, in terms of research, I would say machine learning can help in predictive responses, right? To predict the individual response to a specific dietary intervention, probably because it has already the data, right? So even when we want to look into a research, how is this research going to shape up is also something that it can help with. Even with nutrient analysis, with food compositions, right? We have varied geography, we have different products, different nutrition labels. Once put in, maybe when we want to refer back, this is where AI can help. Even in, I would say, when we talk specifically of research, even in the dietary pattern recognition, right? The algorithms can help us understand these complex dietary patterns from large cohort studies. So population-based studies, I think it is important. Behavioral insights are an important thing I can think of when we, with what the support from the AI. And I think the one of the important things is maybe real-time monitoring as well as interaction and feedback that a person can get using AI. So I don't think AI, it's good to understand it, it's good to propagate it. You mentioned Chat GPT. I am also not so much still at hand with it, but I would say you use that help, but at the same time years of experience to understand and to evaluate what is coming out of it. It is not that you just type it and you have it and you use it, then you will not evolve. Your machine is evolving, you are somewhere stagnating. So that balance is required. Help is fine, but it's your understanding and your learning that is going to actually help the research. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Like when this what we call, when the mixie and grinder came, people were very much afraid that it is going to replace women in kitchen. But still, women are the masters. Likewise, it will be always the master, irrespective of any changes. But what happens is, one of the groups in academic nutrition, I found Dr. Anupashra sharing some of the research papers, where they have just pasted the version as such from the GPT. So likewise, there are several mistakes. Human is to err. There is commonly we make many mistakes, but sometimes we are not underlined. This is the actual problem. So my question to Priya ma'am is what are some common mistakes researchers make while writing for any kind of applying for the grants, and how can we better avoid them? Because sometimes the smallest things, details we miss. Priya ma'am? I think some network.
Yeah, I think it seems
then I'll just hold this question and move on to Asma ma'am's question. Ma'am, can you share some of the ethical consideration which have affected the directions and methodology of the research, influenced by the grant proposals or influenced by any other things?
Yeah, so these are the external influences, right? How
Yes.
what are your funding agencies and how you're being ethical? Yes. For that, to all the participants today, I strongly recommend you to read the book I just came across in the net by Marion Nestle, Unsavory to Truth: How Food Companies Skew the Science of What You Eat. Okay, and it's an interesting read. I've booked for that. I wanted to read that book. But I'll just share a story with you on how the funding and these companies can actually skew the nutrition science. In 1967, there was a article published in New England Journal of Medicine. Okay, and it was done by Harvard scientists, and the claim was that lipids increase the risk of coronary heart disease. Lipids, and that was. That was the main finding. In fact, sugar was also a major risk factor for coronary heart disease. And you know what the researchers did? They underplayed with sugar evidence that sugar is causing. They didn't bring it in the article at all. So finally, some researchers went and explored it further and found out that this was funded by a company which is called the Sugar Research Foundation. And they wanted to refute the concerns about sugar's role in possible heart disease. This can happen to us. This can happen to any researcher. That is where ethics play a role. I think, if you look into the net, you can see a pattern emerging on all those walnuts and chias and chocolates and pomegranate in dengue fever and yogurt in, in heart disease, etc. And that is most of these papers are funded by food industry, which is a grape juice maker or a walnut grower. So this is what's happening. And I don't think we can escape it all the time, especially the new researchers. You have to get these funding agencies. But we need to keep in mind that that should not be at the cost of ethical. Try to make it, always try to do whatever is ethically to the maximum possible extent. So now currently I'm trying for weight loss a diet for chia seed pudding, but I'm checking the grade of evidence in systematic review and meta-analysis, and I have found out that it is not strong. So let's see. So that's it. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, actually, Priya ma'am, I have posed a question to you. Were you able to hear my question, or you want me to repeat, ma'am?
Is that to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I had your question. Yes, no, the mistakes which researchers usually make. So the common mistakes which I think even we are guilty of doing is to not plan ahead and do everything at the last minute. You know, we have got a last minute for the grant proposal to. The funding agency has set up a last date for submitting the proposal, and then all of a sudden you have to get everything together in the last minute, and so there might not be enough time to really go through the scientific rigor and your language which you're using to write the research proposal, etc. So all this requires an intense effort from the researcher's side. So it's always better that you start early, identify the last date earlier itself and start early and go through the proposal again and again to check for any last minute corrections which you might have to make. Like you were saying earlier, many of the researchers are using ChatGPT and other AI tools to write the research proposal. That is fine, but what we should bear in mind now is that you have got softwares now to detect any plagiarism even from ChatGPT. So it's okay to use ChatGPT and other AI tools as a guide, but what you're actually writing should be your own. So do not just copy paste whatever is mentioned by ChatGPT or whatever the ChatGPT throws at you. Another mistake which we researchers usually make is not to tell a compelling story. This is your baby. This research is your baby. This is your story. And you have to sell that story. You have to sell your product, isn't it? So if you don't do it effectively, naturally the funder might not also feel the need to fund that particular project.
Thank you, ma'am. So, like, I understand, like, very important is if you are not going to present yourself, who else will do that for you?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Another thing which, the funders might get back to you, once you submit your project, it is not that is the end of it. You have to continue sort of communication with the funder. They might ask you for some modifications. They might ask you for some clarifications. And just ignoring that might not be the ideal situation. You might have to communicate with them again and again, build a rapport with them, increase your or the communication with them, so that there's an understanding between the funding agency and the researcher, and that will help a lot in gaining the funding. Usually, funding agencies are very proactive towards giving the funding, provided they sense an interest in the researcher and in the research topic.
Thank you, ma'am. Like Shilpa ma'am, the biggest problem as a dietitians we witness today is at least Asma ma'am is seeing the evidence of chia seeds, but not many of the general public is what happening is they are so much influenced. So like when keto diet, we have witnessed what keto diet is actually for and how it was misinterpreted and misused. So the question is like how challenges like it is turning this nutritional advice or a practical diet advice is getting misinterpreted, and how can we like researchers resolve this problem more than a clinician in the point of researcher?
Right. Here you're talking of how this nutritional research and how the researcher is solving this problem. So more not from the clinician, but from researcher perspective. Now, when we look at nutrition, I think there is a complexity of dietary factors. So it is influenced by a lot of things: cultural preference, socioeconomics, to lifestyle, to genetics, etc. Right? Now, if as a researcher I have to look at this problem, there has to be an interdisciplinary approach. You can't have a singular approach to a multifaceted problem, right? So here comes in a lot of large-scale studies or randomized control trials where effect of dietary patterns are seen on diverse population, right? Asma ma'am did say about chia seeds, right? Not everybody can afford it. So even if we are looking at best of evidences and as best of researchers around it. Not we can't supplement everybody with that which is not even locally available, right? There comes in the individual variability also, their preferences also. Okay. Also is the changing dietary trend, the food environment. There are very rapid changes in the dietary habits into what, like one influencer will talk about dark chocolate. Everybody wants to go and eat the dark chocolate, right? But if it is a researcher, they will mention why that dark chocolate and not the processed dark chocolate. Now, again, there is a difference between that. Right? So understanding the food environment and basing researches around it is also probably the need of our, and lot of nutrition misinformation, lot of conflicting advices. We have abundance of media, we have websites, press that releases that come. We saw ICMR guidelines and now the protein has taken a big turnover. We can't even meet point, right? So that understanding has to come first to unlearn the general population and then help them. So maybe collaboration with nutrition educators, debunking of common nutrition myths, and then maybe empowering individuals is probably the way forward, where the nutrition researchers can help the nutrition providers or clinicians with better understanding in terms of how these researchers need to be promoted.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, Priya ma'am, this question is for you. Like basically, like what we were discussing in this, like few years back, me and my husband did a study on cyber consciousness. And what happened, interestingly, I found is more than medicine or more than anything, people try anything with diet. 100% of the participants said, whatever we see on the internet or whatever we hear from anybody, we'll just try because food doesn't cause any harm. That is what our country believe in. So later when I was doing more on the nutritional psychology, I really regretted because that early data, I have not made a very pakka data bank. So what is the kind of, to avoid such misleading, like how important is this early data and how much like we have to show all what is already done to the funders, or how important it is for the grants or any kind of works?
Yes. So regarding data sharing, more specifically early data sharing, there are certain issues with the data. One thing is with whom are you sharing this data? So data is usually shared with a funding agency. Of course, they are one major stakeholder in your research. So data has to be shared with them. Another thing is the general public. Because most of this research grants, if you're employing public money for the research grants, of course, the public also becomes a stakeholder indirectly, and you have to finally disseminate your research findings to the general public also. So they also are a stakeholder, definitely. So regarding the data sharing with the funding agency, usually prior to the initiation of the research itself, prior to them giving you the grant itself, funding grant itself, they usually have an agreement between the funding agency and the researcher, which tells you how much of data should be shared, what to be shared, when to be shared, etc. So usually the funding agency will, especially if it is a prolonged research, they will ask you to submit reports in a periodic manner. In this periodic manner, when you're submitting a report, of course, your interim analysis findings, everything has to be submitted to them. Some funding agencies will, not all, but some funding agencies will also ask for the raw data. So giving the raw data is always we cannot just say that just because we are the data generators, the data belongs to us. It is there. They also have a stake in that data. So we'll have to share. But one thing, important thing, which we have to bear in mind over here is this data sharing should not be in conflict with the institutional policies or with the ethical guidelines. Because always when we share data with the funding agency or even in the general public, the data should be de-identified or anonymized, and all ethical issues of data sharing should be followed over. Now, in the Western countries, they usually have a centralized database where all the human research data should be uploaded. Even in India, we have got the clinical trial registry, but that only addresses the clinical trials, the RCTs data, which has to be uploaded over there. We do not have a data bank in India currently, database in India currently, to upload all the human research-based data. In Western countries, they have it, and NFP can access the data. Of course, the data is classified in different levels, like some data which can be accessed by all the people, that is open access data, or some are restricted, some are classified, etc. And some not accessible to anybody except select people. So they have classified the data like that. In India also, the ICMR is trying to make some guidelines regarding data sharing. And I think a draft proposal regarding data sharing is ready by the ICMR. It has to be finalized, and I think within next few months it will be finalized and it will be up for the general public to be viewed. But the bottom line over here is the data management. It has to be done in a, data sharing has to be done in a very ethical manner. And usually the how and why and what of data sharing should be specified earlier on itself when you're actually drawing up your memorandum of understanding with the grant proposing agency. So usually we will have a memorandum of understanding with the grant agency, which tells us what data to be shared with whom and how frequently, etc. But the important thing is we have to de-identify the data before sharing with anybody. Because we have had instances where the agency has specifically asked for the data because they would also want to analyze the data. Suppose you're having a particular, say, supplement, a nutritional supplement, and usually, like we said earlier, the granting agency may have some interest. The funding agency might have some interest in that particular product. So when we share the data, they can manipulate the data in some way. So always we have to, especially if a conflict of interest is involved. Conflict of interest in this case would be like commercial agencies, what do you say, funding your research. So in that case, it is very important to address this conflict of interest. So in that case, the memorandum of understanding, which is drawn up earlier itself, will address this issue in the earliest itself, that the funding agency will not be involved in any way in the data collection process or the data analysis or the interpretation of data in any way. So we have to address that conflict of interest earlier on. And regarding the sharing with the public, if you have a central database or a central place where the data is being stored, then whatever data is released, either by the funding agency or by the researcher in terms of publications or something like that, will be monitored. It will come under the scan. So there will be some restriction regarding what is being told to the public. Is it evidence-based or not? So that is how data has to be managed. Over here, transparency is of utmost importance. So whatever data you have generated, it is important that transparency be maintained with the funding agency as well as with the public. So transparency is of utmost interest.
Thank you so much, ma'am. There is a Tirukural, I just remember, Chevikunava, that is when you don't have a feast for your ears or a brain, you will get a hunger. So now we are into the hunger for education. We are listening to you so much. However, I understand the participants because as a dietitian, I insist on timely eating, and as a psychologist, I understand the quality family time. Today is a Sunday. I don't take so much of time. We are having one last question to our dear Asma ma'am, and then we can end our session with the small vote of thanks and kind of things. So Asma ma'am, this is the very important question I think you should address us. Because what happens is, I think in the very early stages, I heard about this, how much alcohol is good for cardiac health. The research has taken a huge thing because the newspaper or media has given it in a different interpreted way. And even today, we have the same problem. Like everywhere, all the researchers are getting interpreted and people were given in a wrong, public is given a wrong messages. That is how this protein is also became a very big problem today. We had seeing even so many youngsters not eating any carbohydrate or anything. They don't even understanding carbohydrate lack may cause brain fog. They just treat carbohydrate and fat as villain, and all these things are happening. The question is like very precisely, what are the ethical rules should the researcher follow while telling the public about the discoveries to prevent the misunderstandings? And also how much scientists can work with the media to make sure that their research is represented accurately by the journalist.
These are actually principles of communicating with the public as well as the media. I think today I was discussing about the chia seed thing. So let me say that I am doing a study on chia seeds. 25 grams per day is contributing to weight loss, and or let's say lowering my low density cholesterol levels. And in my study, it's got some evidence, but that doesn't mean, see, it is a proven thing. So that's where I go wrong most of the time. I try to push my study across. But in the hierarchy of nutrition evidence, you need to have systematic reviews and meta-analysis to prove at least beyond doubt that this is indeed working. So I should be accurate about it while talking about it to the public, and should be transparent. The second thing is conflict of interest. As a nutritional researcher, I have a responsibility to disclose my financial relationships with companies that produce or sell chia seeds or whatever, because this is important to gain trust and credibility of the community and the public. Another thing, I should not overinflate the results of my experiment, nor should I oversimplify the results of my experiment. And so that involves, be present evidence-based results in truth. And responsible messaging is another key. Most of the researchers try to put a tag like a miracle cure or miracle weight loss drug, miracle drug to cure infertility. So those kind of things. So avoid all kinds of sensationalism in your when you spread messages, to disseminate messages to the public. And as Dr. Shilpa rightly pointed out, when I'm doing a research on chia seeds, I also need to think about the affordability to all sections of the society. Is it affordable to vulnerable sections of the society? So that's important. And what about the equity of my research findings and projects? And again, be prepared to correct any misconceptions or misinformations that will arise from the public. Now, working with the media is going to be not that easy cakewalk. First thing, you have to go ahead with a press release. And that is the key. And in the press release, you need to summarize your key findings by providing context, background, methodology, results, and implications at least to the journalists, because they need to understand by using a simple, lucid language free from technical jargons. And that is where most of us go wrong. Okay, we need to know how to communicate your results across in a lucid manner, and always deliver key messages to the media, and be ready to talk with reporters and journalists, because they're going to seek additional context and clarification before publishing your article. And also be truthful, transparent about your limitations and confounders and alternative explanations, that acknowledge the potential confounders in your study. See, this is the minimal evidence I have. And so we need more evidence or more studies to prove that this finding is indeed effective. And monitor media coverage is very, very important, because there be a lot of inaccuracies in reporting, and you need to correct it timely and all the misconceptions that arise. And finally, let me say, we need to collaborate with nutrition experts to improve the face value of your findings. And that is why I said interdisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary research is important. if you want to get visibility of your study both at the national and the international level. So thank you, Sri Priya. I think time is running short.
Actually, somewhere we have missed the time and we have exceeded already half an hour. So I just wanted to end up. Thank you so much. There is a saying goes, God is in finest details. We have got a very finest details from the panelists today, and this is going to be a very visionary session today, and it may improve how we work on research. I really wholeheartedly thank all the panelists, and to be honest, in the association of last 45 days, what I learned from you all is the commitment to a certain task. Once committed, how gracefully you have taken it, and how gracefully you have done anything, even in the smallest nuances. Your commitment has really been very much inspiring for me, and it is a real motivation to do more research and more associations. Thank you, doctors, for joining us today. And Fatima, rest is over to you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Fatima, if possible, we can have a quick photo session also with all the participants opening their videos.
Yeah. Please open your videos. I hope.
I think all are already having their lunch.
And really thank you, participants, like panelists, for the very smiling answers. Like very much motivated by your smiles too.
Thank you.
Okay, before ending our session and before a vote of thanks, we do have a small thing because we conducted a poster competition for our motivating our upcoming students. So I welcome our Dr. Shripriya ma'am to announce our winners.
Thank you. Is the winners sent to me? Fatima, I'm sorry, I couldn't see the winners' details. Is it sent to me? Okay, fine. We can announce the winners maybe in the group.
Ma'am, it's sent to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Swati. Okay. Thank you so much for the participants for joining us in the poster competition. We had a poster on recent ICMR dietary guidelines for this Indian population. And the first prize goes to poster number 4, that is from Lija K. Ram. And second prize goes to poster number 1, that is from, I think it is from Sandhya, isn't it? And the third prize is for Sylvie. Thank you all. Wonderful and inspiring posters. We'll be posting the posters in our CNF's all media, social media handles. Thank you so much.
Okay,
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
And I welcome Fiza for giving vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
As we come to the close of this event, I feel really privileged to have the opportunity to extend a vote of thanks to all who have contributed to the success of this event. I thank the speaker of the day, Dr. Varsha. Dr. Varsha, you have really enlightened us with the knowledge and insight. Your talk has always been an eye-opener into the reality. I also thank the panelists of the day, Dr. Asma Rahim, Dr. Priya Chandra, and Dr. Shilpa Verma for sharing their valuable knowledge and expertise with us. Your contributions have really enriched our understanding of nutrition research. Nothing can be done without a plan and strategy. A special thanks to our organizing committee, whose tireless efforts and meticulous planning have made this event possible. Team Meraki, your dedication and hard work are really, really appreciated. A special and heartfelt thanks to Sri Priya ma'am, whose who planned this event. Your vision, dedication, and hard work have been the driving force behind the successful event plan. We are truly grateful for your leadership and commitment. Special thanks and mention to Community Nutrition Forum for facilitating this event. Last but not the least, I would thank all the participants for their active engagement and enthusiastic participation. Your presence and involvement has been crucial to the success of this event. Once again, thank you all for making this event a grand success. We look forward to your continued support and participation in future events. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Shripriya.
Thank
It
you.
was
Shri-
nice.
It was
Thank you.
nice participating with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Happy Sunday all. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Bye, everyone.
Bye.